if there was a bad actor with Tether and someone goes and buys something on a dark market and the cops swoop in and go, what's this? They could potentially easily just shut the bank accounts. Prediction markets have academically shown that they are the best function we've got to predict the future.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I'm with a bit of an old friend, Joshua Scigala of Vaultoro. If you don't know Vaultoro, it's basically a cryptocurrency exchange which actually, instead of using fiat, is actually using gold. Very interesting. We're actually here at the Perth. We're in Perth, Australia, for the Australia Gold Symposium, which I actually spoke at about 6-7 years ago, and actually brought up Bitcoin at the time. No one bought any, I don't think, but I actually brought it up. And
fools.
And this year they actually have a full crypto day after the gold conference. There's a lot of people here, a lot of people with gold-backed currencies that they're trying to do and things like that, cryptocurrencies. So very interesting stuff, and we're going to get into lots of stuff about cryptos and gold and all that sort of stuff. But Joshua, first thing I have to ask you is, how did you become an anarchist?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on, Jeff. It's good to see you again. Yeah, well, basically, 9/11 happened. I was always a gold bug. And I sort of came from more of the greenies, lefty background, originally artsy, intellectuals, family, you know. But when 9/11 happened, I started to really delve into following the money. What's the money? What is money? What's happening? Why are these, you know, and everything was confusion. So that's then I started delving deeper into world politics and understanding money, and this whole concept of money is the root of all evil, it started to look ridiculous, because what I realized is it's not money that's the root of all evil, it's the creation of money, and how that's created is the root of all evil. And I started questioning a lot of these doctrines that had been passed through about different sort of left-leaning stuff, but then I started looking at the right, and they looked ridiculous, and I could tell it was really two wings of the same beast, that this is a paradigm which is ridiculous. And then I started reading Rothbard, looking at a little bit of Molyneux. I would also, of course, Anarchast then came along, and seeing a lot of the great guests that you've had, and reading a lot of the books in the Austrian School of Economics, and just realized that every problem, and I started really playing with some of these complex social problems and asking myself, how can we solve this problem without a state? And it's funny, because I talk to people, and some people get really, you know it, right? Some people get so triggered if you say, oh, we don't need a government, and they get really angry at you. But instead I would think, well, let's just play this sci-fi game. What would happen? Let's just pretend there is. How would we solve that? And the more and more I started reading, because a lot of these questions, like who will build the roads, is the typical one that we all hear about, but it's really, many people have thought about these problems before, and a lot of people are, yeah, well, how would you build the roads? It's like, well, that's like the easiest, that's the first question that comes in your mind, and people have spent many years thinking about these problems, and so I started searching them out and reading about some of the solutions, and I just love the thought of living in a society where where you have natural anarchy, but a post-enlightened anarchy, not something that's just some crazy punks running around with Molotov cocktails or whatever people have in their head. Seeing that these complex issues can be solved, and you do start to see most problems in the world arise generally from this authority that comes in and manipulates or markets and fixes one problem and starts another.
Yeah, absolutely. That's governments and central banks. They create most of the problems that they claim that they're here to help us with.
Yeah.
Really interesting that you started off with 9/11. That was one of the things that really woke me up as well. Yeah. And we both got woke up by the same person. That's Luke Rudowski of We Are Change.
Yeah.
You saw Loose Change.
Yes.
And you actually saw it before me. I think I didn't see it until about 2004 or something. And once I saw it, I was like, oh, how did I not notice? This is not what they said it was on the television programming. But you actually flew down, like Luke Rudowski, to, was it Europe or something?
To Australia, to Sydney, yeah.
In like 2002 or something?
Oh, maybe it's 2003, I can't remember. It was some very, very early days, because we started talking to the architects and engineers because I just wanted to ask questions, and a lot of the architects and engineers were asking the same questions, and so I wanted to find out more. So we flew Richard Gage and a bunch of people down as a group of us, truth seekers, if you want to call it that.
Truthers, they use it as like a derogatory term.
Yeah, like
well, you guys just want to know the truth.
Like finding out the truth. I mean, truth is a loaded word anyway, because what is it? What is truth? And now we have this whole fake news nonsense which is being paraded around, and which, fake news. I mean, that's been the prerogative of secret services forever. That's all they do is for anyway. But it's an interesting time.
So let's talk about Vaultoro, because the crypto space isn't that old. It's really 2009 was when Bitcoin came out. I didn't find out about it until 2011. Like the first people I started talking to knew anything about it were around 2013. But you've been around with Vaultoro for quite a while, which is really interesting, because there's not a lot of people who have been in the space for more than 1 or 2 years. So give us a little bit of the background on how that came about.
Well, I started the world's first swap site where people swapped clothes, because I was always interested in alternative economies. And what I realized soon enough is that if you have a jacket that I really love, but I don't have anything you like, then the deal falls through, and that's very unfortunate. And like I said before, it's the creation of money. So I was thinking, okay, how do I create it? And this was before Satoshi's white paper. How do we create a token, a digital token that can be used in the marketplace? I realized, there's so many problems. Do I create too many? There's all this economic theory. And so I was trying to solve the double spend problem naively in these early days.
Before Bitcoin.
Yeah, back before 2000. And so then basically I realized I couldn't solve that problem. I was researching what they were doing with DigiCash and some of these other things here in Europe at the time, and what the eGold and what the cypherpunks were doing, and keeping an eye on that. But basically it was until I read Satoshi's white paper in late 2010 to 2011, January, somewhere around there, and I thought, she's cracked it. Here it is. This is, and fell down that rabbit hole. And as soon as that came out, I started incorporating Bitcoin into SwapStyle, which was the swapping platform that we had.
Oh, really?
It was the only thing really going. We had alpaca socks and so. But what I ended up getting rid of that business. But then I lost a lot of money in Mt. Gox. When that collapsed, for those that don't know, I'm sure your listeners do know, but it was, it was one of the biggest exchanges back in the day that collapsed. And I got really mad because there was a lot of Bitcoin services that were just stealing people's money. There was Insta Wallet and some other things that just started running away with people's cash. And I thought, man, the blockchain is so transparent. There has to be a better way. So I started working on a decentralized exchange with my brother straight after Mt. Gox. And I realized that what are called op return codes, or the programming language, let's say, behind Bitcoin wasn't really ready for decentralized exchanges. So we focused on a centralized exchange that would have ultimate transparency. So I focused on using a ledger where we could publish everybody's anonymous IDs, and we don't know that they're checking, and they could always check that we're above reserve. And we published the cold wallets and everything else. But the main thing was I got into Bitcoin to get away from fiat, yet we were pricing everything in fiat, we're hedging in fiat, everything in fiat. Mt. Gox closed, everyone's money's in fiat, the liquidators come in and take everything. So how do we fix that? We have a really transparent exchange, but have the counter asset as allocated physical bullion, sitting in a high security Swiss vaulting facility, fully audited, fully insured. And so if anything happens to us as a startup, it doesn't matter, because the gold is not on our books. It's in our client's name as their legal property. And even liquidators couldn't touch our client's assets and then be able to take that and trade back into crypto. So now people can start to hedge things or have a price discovery mechanism based on gold instead of fiat. Well, why are we still sticking around fiat? And people constantly say, gold is, Bitcoin's the new gold. No, Bitcoin and gold work together to get rid of fiat. That's really what we should work at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually haven't used your exchange. I'm kind of a bit sad I haven't, now that I know a bit more about it. I've known you for a while and I've known the name, but I've just never gotten around to using your site. So when you're using it, like, give us a little bit of a... So how does it work? So I deposit some Bitcoin on the site, and then what happens? Like, how is this based on gold exactly?
Yeah, so there are some other services like Gold Money people always compare us to, but actually the thing is that they have one single vote, it's an OTC, so they set the price, they're always the counterparty. And the problem with that is, if you buy gold from them, they could potentially, when you go to, first of all, they don't give you crypto back, so that's kind of annoying, but if they did, if they could change their price, and you're forced to pay it because they're the only counterparty. So we wanted to make sure we build an actual exchange. So it's just like Kraken or Bitstamp or any of these major exchanges. It's a full order book of people bidding and asking. So you upload Bitcoin, and as of February we're revamping, so we'll have other cryptos as well. And you will be able to basically put a bid in and find a price for gold and Bitcoin, and that's really was the key to find a price discovery mechanism based on gold. It's
very interesting. So I think you're also working on some sort of like ICO or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed away from ICOing, and I hate that word so much because it's so loaded. But I feel that I've always been a fan of allowing customers to be part of a growing business that they're fans of and that they enjoy. And I feel that this is part of the ethos of cryptos, to allow the little guy, instead of the big investment elite, to basically have first snacks on some of these amazing startups. And we work really hard. We've been around for a long time. We're not just a white paper, but we basically want to have a membership token where people get discounts on their trades. Binance sort of pioneered this, and I didn't think it would fly as well as it did because the economic theory is kind of wacky. But these discount vouchers are trading really well. In fact, during the whole bear market, the Binance token was going up, which for me was like a wake-up call. And I thought, right, why do we want to ICO? First is we want our customers to be able to be part of our success, but also we want to build an infrastructure where we allow to tokenize the gold, because right now the gold isn't tokenized, you can't move it, it's just a database entry in our internal ledger. And there is really strong use cases for tokenizing gold, and I really like the Hayekian theory of allowing, the old school when Hayek was around, it was banks, but banks competing, they're issuing their own currency and they're competing in a marketplace. So if one bank starts to get sketchy with their reporting, the market should price their gold less. Mm-hmm. And so by competing, and this is effectively what crypto is doing, but I just don't like to see what's happening with Tether and with USDT. I mean, Tether's got apparently 2.8 billion sitting in 2 bank accounts. And even if they're audited, which I don't think they've been fully audited yet, I'm not sure of that, but even if it's all there, you have the bank speculating up to 95%. I think in the country that I think it's Malaysia. I'm not sure, but
Taiwan, I believe.
I think it's Taiwan. I think I researched that it was 5% reserve. That's all they need. So 95% they can speculate with. And then so that's an underlying asset. And then on the crypto side, everyone's speculating like crazy with that side. So both sides are speculating like nuts. If there was a bad actor with Tether and someone goes and buys something on a dark market and the cops swoop in and go, what's this? They could potentially easily just shut the bank accounts. Part of banks' business model nowadays is to freeze bank accounts. And we've seen this in the crypto space. Anyone that's in crypto has probably had a bank account frozen somewhere along the line. And so that's part of their business model. They freeze accounts and they can still speculate with those funds while you fight for a year to get the bank account open. And then you've got the problem, if the government goes broke, the banking system collapses, which is pretty certain. We see the Dow Jones. Look at the Dow Jones chart. It looks like a crypto Bitcoin bubble. It's like, except it's in the trillions. So if the banking system collapses, then you're only insured to 100K. So they've got two accounts. There's 200K from 2.8 billion. The whole thing is a mess. The whole thing's very, very dangerous. So by having allocated bullion, I think we can solve these problems, because if there's a bad actor, they can only take that bar. They can't confiscate the whole lot, because it's allocated to different people, legal people. And yeah, you know, in some countries like China, it doesn't matter. They'll just come in with guns and say, this is it, finished. But so you want to stick with jurisdictions like Switzerland, who have been through 2 world wars, fairly neutral, haven't have been very good with private property laws and common law. And by backing crypto with that, would allow for the first time programmable gold. I think that's also very interesting. Having smart contracts funded with gold tokens that then can be redeemable if, and you know, gold can be audited, fully audited and fully insured as well. And this is something that's very lacking in the traditional Bitcoin crypto space, is this insurance. So I think this is, I mean, that'll come, hopefully, because I'm already seeing insurers and underwriters starting to get more interested in this space. But gold is definitely insurable, and we already insure all our clients gold right now. So I think, sorry, it's a long answer to your question, but we're running this crowd sale with Vault token, which will be this this token that will give discounts of membership, but we're building a framework to tokenize different gold. So in Switzerland, in Australia, in different jurisdictions, we'll have different gold, different tokens. And every time they do an on-chain transaction, they'll send a tiny fee into a pool, which will pay the Vault token holders a little bit of a dividend for voting on the due diligence of these. So this is an interesting thing, that we allow the crowd to look through the due diligence of these vaulting facilities. And this will allow them some payment from the movement of these tokens. So, yeah, it's a fascinating world, and I really love the fact that we can experiment with economic theory without gulags. I think this is probably the best part of crypto that I love.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. You know, it's sort of like the cryptos and even this anarcho-capitalist sort of ideas. It's kind of like the old communist ideas, in that, you know, some people came up with them and, oh, that sounds good, let's try them. Communism kind of went towards gulags and just total destruction, and everyone's starving. It's like, okay, those ideas don't really work that well. A lot of people still think they do, but they obviously just don't pay attention to, you know, facts.
It's so strange that people still think, after so many different use cases of the same stupid theory. And really, that is super exciting, that you can have a coin. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's a shit coin, that's a scam. But a lot of these are really just engineers trying some new economic theory out. We had a coin back in the day called Freicoin. And Freicoin was a demurrage coin. So it would try to basically, if it didn't move, it would redistribute it to everyone else, like in a weird demurrage, right? Everyone was like, yeah, this will promote spending, everything will move. It moved, and then it collapsed and flatlined. But nobody died. No one was forced to use this. The market chose. No, it's a bad theory. It doesn't work. Okay, cool. Next, let's try another one, or a different style. You know, let's iterate. Yeah,
that's the beauty of the market. And you know, there's been so many things in my lifetime that I thought would not work whatsoever. For example, even professional wrestling. When I was younger, I'm like, this can't go on much longer. These guys, there's fat guys like acting like they're fighting, and then UFC comes out and all this. I'm like, professional wrestling must go away soon. It hasn't, so I was totally wrong on that. When Wikipedia came out, so it came out, this is like, I forget when, 1995 or something, and it comes out and it's like, yeah, anyone in the world can change it. I'm like, that's not going to work. But look at it, actually works pretty good. So you never know what works. Yeah, like of course the government's gotten a lot more, you know, making sure they censor some stuff or whatever. And it's not perfect, and that's why there's things like what's called Everpedia, which is blockchain-based Wikipedia now. So we're creating new things to see what works. But I would have never guessed that Wikipedia would work. I remember when it first came out, I just laughed. Like, you know what kind of garbage is going to be on there? Because you can just go on there and go, oh, he's a stupid head, and just hit enter, right? Well, but it turns out that people like to keep these things going, and there's certain people, that's all they do all day is just make sure these Wikipedia entries are perfect.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing. And that really shows the passion, the currency of passion. the currency of passion is there, where someone is so impassioned about a certain topic that they're willing to police information about that topic to make sure it's as correct as possible.
For free.
But I would like to see, moving forward, things like prediction markets and stuff that allow for different mechanisms to find truth, because prediction markets allow people to put away dogma for profit. So, there's sort of interesting use cases where you have, you might be so dogmatic about a certain outcome or a certain truth, but actually, if you're wrong, you lose money. So, I've actually done some research, it's probably going to be this. So you bet on the right thing. So I think crypto really allows some of these amazing new use cases and endless use cases, really.
Yeah. Have you followed Augur much?
Yeah, I have.
I didn't personally, and I know that they're quite involved in the prediction markets, and I haven't seen how it's gone. I heard it didn't go that well, or it's not going that well.
I mean, the user experience is pretty crappy, to say the best. It's got, I think, 3 users every week or something. So,
not very good.
For a prediction market, you really want mass users. And the problem with prediction markets is that people tend to predict on the crappiest things, like sports and government outcomes and predict elections and stuff like that. But I feel that this is also a problem with the history of religion, basically saying that gambling's a bad thing and stuff like that. I mean, but gambling...
Why did it ever say that in the Bible, by the way?
I'm not sure.
I don't think it ever mentions gambling, but a lot of these Catholic countries are like, oh, it's really bad.
It's a sin.
Yeah, it's like, what? Everything's gambling.
Everything's a gamble.
Every single thing I do in my life is a gamble.
Yeah, it really is. And look, there are problem gamblers, and there are issues with that. But at the same time, when there's such a stigma around that we don't. A lot of people can't open their mind enough to say, hey, wow. Prediction markets, which is basically betting on 2 outcomes and finding the odds will point to the closest to the truth. Prediction markets have academically shown that they are the best function we've got to predict the future, is by betting on it, purely because we put away dogmas. We put away...
and you have
incentive for experts to come in and say, wow, this is totally wrong, I'm going to bet because I'm going to win.
And the guys with the dumb ideas are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to risk my paycheck on this dumb idea that I've been saying my whole life, right? So, yeah, it's really good.
One person, I don't know if you've had him on the show, but Ralph Merkle, who he's a mathematician.
The Merkle tree guy?
The Merkle tree guy, which is basically a building block of Bitcoin. It's funny because people always talk about, blockchain, They could also say, Merkle tree, it's the next big thing. Like, anyway. So Ralph talks a lot about prediction markets and futurity and the ridiculous nature of voting, and how we can maybe use prediction markets to vote on certain outcomes, and then build a society around common things that we want based on these prediction markets. So, very interesting guy. I definitely recommend having him on. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually didn't know it was an actual guy. I've heard of Merkle trees, but I didn't know there was a Ralph Merkle. So I'll definitely check that out. There's so much stuff going on in the space, you can't even keep up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we should kind of wrap this up a little bit. So we've been talking a lot about crypto, gold a bit. You might come and speak at Anarchapulco.
Yes, I'd be very, very keen. I've only heard everybody that has been. A friend of mine, good friend Fabio from Germany, he's been every year or something like that, and he's just saying it's getting better and better. And Tatiana's been there, and we have, of course, Luke and a lot of mutual friends, and everyone is raving. And Kerry, who organised the symposium here, she went last year, and she just keeps saying, Josh, you've got to come. And I have wanted to come. It's been like sort of Burning Man. It's like one of these things I've always wanted to go. I've gone a couple of times, but I haven't. It's sort of things get in the way. But this year, I'm dedicating. I'm going.
Yeah, and hopefully we can have you speak at Cryptopulco, maybe even at the Dollar Vigilante Summit, which is the 2 days before Anarchapulco. We'll talk about that later.
Right on,
but definitely interested in more of your take on where we're going to go with these gold-backed tokens and your views on that.
I've got a little present for you, Jeff, actually. This is from Vaultoro. This is because, really, fuck banks. So there's a t-shirt for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's something I would proudly wear.
I mean, it should really say fuck but central banks, because, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, banks are just ways to store certain things. But
yeah, that's true.
They've got the power to print money out of nowhere. I mean, that's just ridiculous. They're all part of this scam, so, you know, fuck them.
So fuck them. Yeah, and the, you know, ways that we can fuck them is like starting to use cryptocurrencies more, you know? Like, it really is just up to us to start using them more.
Yes.
And telling our friends about it. I said that in there, that I've heard numbers like something like 10 million people across the world have used at one point or another Bitcoin. I don't know if that number's true. Let's say it's even 1 million. If they told 2 people every year about Bitcoin, got them into it, actually helped them open a wallet, got them show how it works, within about 10 years, the whole world would be on cryptocurrency. So it's really like everything in life, it's really up to your actions. And a lot of people sit out there and go, oh, you know, it's not going to catch on, or what can I really do? It's like, you know, if you feel passionate about it, go out there and just help your local friends get into it. Open a wallet for them. Start talking to your landlord. Go, hey, I can pay you in cryptocurrency if you want. And he'll say, what's that? And, you know, help them out. If we all do that, we can really change the world dramatically.
Exactly, and you know, Gandhi is cheesy as, but you know, be the change you want to see in the world, and that's exactly right. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll have links down below. Is there anything you want people to know? Vaultoro.com.
Yeah, Vaultoro. That's vault, like a gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold. .com, and you can follow me at Vaultoro on Twitter as well. I'm constantly tweeting stuff about stuff.
That's great. We'll have links to that all down below. And as I mentioned, I'll be speaking at Anarchapulco/Cryptopulco. Just so you know, Cryptopulco runs the entire Anarchapulco this year. It's going to be like a second stage, just tons of crypto stuff.
Wow.
And we're also going to have a second stage just for health and well-being. So last year we did it before the conference. This conference, all throughout the conference, if you're into the health and wellness stuff, psychedelics or yoga or meditation or diets or anything like that, it's going to be all through the conference this year. So it's going to be really amazing. And yeah, you haven't heard it incorrectly. Most people just absolutely love it, and I'm so glad about that. We're expecting maybe as many as 3,000 people next year. So, and we haven't really announced much yet. There's going to be huge stuff going on. So really hope you can make it. You can still get tickets. They might sell out beforehand. And that's basically it. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share down below. And that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.